I switched from the iPhone 14 to nothing. Let's talk about it. This is the 256 gig iPhone 14. Last year before the 14, I also tried the Pixel 6 and the Galaxy S22. But before that, for a pretty long time, I was on the iPhone 11. Enter Nothing, a company that, well, let's be honest, makes pretty garbage earbuds if you remember my review, but the phone, well, it caught my interest. I bought it out of pocket, and what do you know? This thing has been pretty fantastic, even coming from the much more expensive iPhone 14. I also have the OnePlus 11 5G here. If you want to see a video about this, let me know in the comments and we'll make it happen. The Nothing phone is definitely unique visually, but let's be honest, a lot of its exterior traits, like the placement of the cameras, well, it does resemble an iPhone, doesn't it? I suppose as far as glass and metal slabs that sit in the hand go, it is hard to make them look truly unique. But Nothing did do a pretty good job with the transparent glass back and their glyph interface. I'm sure you've already noticed this is the matte black version of the Nothing Phone 1. It goes nicely with this black DMS hoodie you can get on dmstech.store. Side pockets on a hoodie? That's the way to go. It feels pretty nice in the hand. It's not too weighty, but you can tell the sides are made out of aluminum. But I will say that the glass on the front and back does scratch rather easily. Not any easier though than my iPhone 11 did, but not quite as tough as the iPhone 14. It has been really nice having a fingerprint sensor again instead of just relying on Face ID all the time. This Face ID, while much better on the iPhone 14 than it was on the 11, it still has its problems, and more often than not I would still end up typing in my password. Whereas the Nothing phone's fingerprint sensor, well, it's pretty solid. It's not as fast as something like the S22, but it's pretty reliable and faster than the Google Pixel was. In fact, so far I would say this has been my most consistent experience with a phone unlock biometric system, whether it be face detection or a fingerprint scanner. Of course, your mileage may vary. We all have different fingerprints. Getting into the phone, well, some things you might care about is specifications and performance. This is a mid-range chip, so it's not using a ton of power, a 4500 milliamp hour battery. It has a 120 hertz OLED screen and 5G. One of the first things I did, if I'm being totally honest, and some of you might hate me for this, I turned off 120 hertz. I went right back to 60 because I was using 60 hertz on the iPhone. No problem. I don't need 120 hertz to read a text message or to watch a 24 FPS video on YouTube. If you spend a ton of time browsing Twitter and scrolling documents, that 120 hertz might be worth it for you. For me, I'll take the extra battery life, and battery life, oh boy, did I have in ample amounts. I actually made a post on Twitter that made some people very upset, showing that at the end of the day, I had a roughly 80% battery with 6 hours of screen on time. After showing the breakdown, doing it a second day in a row of all the app usage I had, it seems difficult for some people to understand that your mileage varies a lot depending on how you use your phone during the day. Me, well, I'm primarily using this indoors. I'm usually around Wi-Fi at my office or at my house. I'm not playing games, and most of my usage is letting it sit in the background playing YouTube videos. That's not too power consuming, and it's not surprising you get that sort of battery life out of a phone when you're using it like I am. Of course, I still do things like Discord, Slack, and Twitter, but I'm not scrolling TikTok and sending Snapchats all day. So for me, this is a pretty easy 3 to 4 day battery. If you're traveling, that could be a different story, because you won't be on Wi-Fi a lot. I'm going to be taking this phone with me to CanJam, New York City pretty soon, so we'll see how it does on that. But overall, things like talking to people on video calls and meetings, well, do you have any weapons on hand? It actually did better than my iPhone on battery life, I assume primarily due to the battery's capacity. Though there's no argument that the iPhone's not more efficient, it certainly is. But it also has a smaller battery. Depending on who you are, you might get better battery life out of either one, but this is my personal use case. I quite like the glyph interface on the back. At first, I thought it was a gimmick, but when I place the phone down, well, the glyph turns on, the phone is silenced, and now I get notifications via these flashing lights on the back. Different patterns indicating different things, and, well, it's a nice refresher. But the more you set your phone on its face, the more likely it is to get scratched. The glyph interface really feels like the only thing built into this phone is bloat. There's some very minor changes to the UI, but aside from that, it really feels like stock Android. No extra garbage pre-installed apps, not tons of pop-ups telling me to sign up for this and that. After using this phone for a while, it actually reminds me a lot of one of my favorite old phones, the Nexus 5. More so even than the current Google Pixels. It's just a very clean stock experience, and without all that bloatware, well, it's fast. I'm not a mobile gamer, so if you're doing something that's running intense graphics, once again, your mileage may vary, but for me, someone who's using it for Twitter, Discord, Slack, and so on, well, I really can't tell a difference in performance between that and the iPhone 14, which we know on paper is a much more powerful chip than the iPhone. In fact, something I'm used to when trying out Android phones is them being a bit slow when you first turn them on and are setting up accounts, and I never had that with the Nothing phone. It has always been responsive. It's never felt like it's having any sort of hiccups. And actually the gesture navigation on it's worked pretty well too, better than my experience on the Pixel. Now, speaking of the Pixel, nothing really seems to hold up to the camera of the Pixel. The iPhones are great for video, but the 14's camera for photos left me wanting a little bit more. The same is true for the Nothing phone. It is nothing to write home about in terms of cameras. It's not super special, but it is completely acceptable. In fact, I would put it on par with the camera in my previous iPhone, the iPhone 11, which is still a decent camera by today's standards, but it's also not going to blow your mind. The low light performance was actually pretty solid for taking photos, especially for its price point, but once again, don't expect to blow people's minds with your insane picture quality. It's more than good enough to save memories and post things on social media. And it doesn't seem to drain the battery too much either. Once again, my battery experience has been fantastic. I'm at 86% right now, and I'm filming this at 3 p.m. I've had 4 meetings today already on this device. Now, is it perfect? No, you can actually see in Nothing's Discord and in communities online, there are plenty of people who have had bugs, connectivity issues, and so on. I'm using it with T-Mobile's 5G network and have had no problems with connectivity. In fact, I've been getting better signal in some areas than I did with my iPhone. But this is still an early device from an early company. Overall, my experience has been considerably better with this than with the Ear 1 or the Ear Stick, which still are riddled with problems. This, however, well, it gives me a lot more faith in the future of Nothing, especially now knowing that they're going to be releasing a more premium smartphone. My only hope with that is they stick to having few gimmicks with it, keep it mostly to stock Android, and focus on the things that matter, like battery life and build quality. Will I be leaving my sim in this? Who knows? I still need to do a review on the OnePlus 11 5G, and, well, there is always something special about my old iPhone. But the Nothing phone, well, it's the phone I've been wanting to use the most. It's the phone I've enjoyed using. There are some upsides and downsides from going from an iPhone to an Android phone, like, for example, when I'm doing shipping labels, it's not quite as easy to just click print and share to an email address, but it is also a lot easier to sync my music from my music server on Android than on iOS. For now, my sim will stay in the Nothing Phone 1. Who knows what the future may hold, but I feel comfortable recommending this device as long as you know it is still an early access or a beta device in the United States. Nothing does have a beta program that allows you to get this phone for $299, and at that price it is an insane bargain in my personal opinion. The future for Nothing, well, it looks brighter. I'm eager to see what they do next. So guys, if you like this video, please leave a like down below. Comment letting me know what you want to see in the future. If you want to get active in the community, you can at the forums or the Discord, both linked in the video description. As always, don't forget to stick around, subscribe for more videos like this in the future. Till next one, guys. Peace.